Unit 2, Segments, Lines, and Angles. Preview video 2.6, Part 1, Angle Pairs. Close your eyes, sit tall, through the nose. Inhale. Hold your breath. Exhale slowly. Taking a look here, don't forget date, time, location, as well as a parental sign-off. We're going to be talking about angle pairs, which are, last time was how angles can be added. Now we're specifically going to talk about different types of angles as related to pairs of angles. Colors really make this helpful. Pairs of angles. Adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are two angles which share a spine. So angle RCA and angle ACP would be considered adjacent. They share a spine, also known as a common ray. They're adjacent. They're next to each other. They have a common ray, AC. So angles RCA, ACP are adjacent. Notice the repetition of the ray CA. A linear pair is a pair of angles that share a spine and make a line. So if they share a spine, they're automatically adjacent. But they make a line. So it's two angles that are adjacent and they make a line. Here's a couple examples. Trace RCF. Now trace FCZ. Do it again with your fingers. Please trace RCF, FCZ. Share a spine, make a line. That would be an example of a linear pair. All linear pairs are automatically adjacent, which means they share a spine, they share a common ray, and you can spot that by the repetition of the letters. Here would be another example. RCA and ACZ. That would be another set. That would be another linear pair. Share a spine, make a line. Notice again the common letters. That's what makes them adjacent. So a linear pair is a pair of angles that share a spine and they make a line. Vertical angles. These are by far the most important, the most common. Gotta watch out for those. Vertical angles are opposite angles created by two straight lines. For example, trace FP. Now trace FZ. Do it again. Trace FP. Trace FZ. We also call these bow tie angles or cat whisker angles or X-wing fighter angles, whatever visually you notice. What's super important to note about these angles is they are always congruent to each other. So vertical angles made by two straight lines, bow ties, cat whiskers, whatever you want to call it, they are always congruent. So they're congruent going that way, and also, watch, two straight lines, both the acute and the obtuse angles are congruent. What's going on here is the angles opposite of each other, created by straight lines, are congruent to each other. Super important you're able to spot these quickly, because they always create congruent angles. We have two more. Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. Complementary, say it out loud. Complementary adds up to 90 degrees. I'd like you to make a C with your hand. Make a C. Say this out loud again. Complementary, two angles which add up to 90 degrees. So imagine that C with your hand and then stretch out your fingers to make a 90-degree angle. Complementary, 90 degrees. So any pair of angles that add up to 90. So in this case, ACR and RCF add up to 90 degrees. So angle ACR and angle RCF are complementary. Now, what's super important to understand is complementary does not necessarily imply adjacent. Applying the whole vertical angles, the fact that these two angles are congruent to each other, we can indirectly apply for example, if this was 60 degrees, we know this would be 30. Which would imply, because of the vertical, that this angle here would be 30. So we can also say that this angle and this angle are complementary. They don't have to be adjacent. ACR and angle PCZ are also complementary, which means they would add up to 90 degrees. Last word, supplementary. Two angles that add up to 180 degrees. For example, RCA and ACZ would be considered supplementary. Angle RCA and angle ACZ are supplementary. Note, all linear pairs are automatically supplementary, but not all supplementary angles are linear pairs. Put your finger here. Let's read aloud. Read aloud with me, please. In the following diagram, sweep the angles A and B. Determine if they are adjacent, a linear pair, supplementary, complementary, vertical, or a combination. I'm going to do these two with you. Trace the straight lines, sweep. Here, angle B and A are vertical and only vertical. These are vertical angles. Over here, trace A, trace B. Well, they're back to back, so that means they're adjacent. But they also add up to 90 degrees, so they're also complementary. So they're both adjacent and complementary. Ready? Pause the video, sweep the angles, and then check. Pause the video. Okay, welcome back. This first one was all three. It was a linear pair, adjacent, and supplementary. This one is only adjacent. Share spine, that's it. This one, it's a linear pair, also adjacent, also supplementary. Those were vertical angles. These two, they're a linear pair, adjacent, and supplementary. These guys were complementary and adjacent. Remember, we're going to read with 3 body parts 3 times. It says right here, angle PQR and RQS are adjacent and complementary. Measure of RQS is 4 times as large as PQR. Find the measure of all possible angles. Adjacent, complementary. Adjacent means they share a spine. If you look carefully, you will see repeated letters. That's your spine. So QR and RQ are the spine. They're adjacent and complementary, which means they have to add up to 90 degrees. So by implication, we have a 90-degree angle. So here we have PQR and RQS. Notice Q's in the middle. That implies Q is the vertex and R is the shared ray. So QR has to be the common ray and Q has to be the vertex. Now we have to get RQS is 4 times as large as PQR. So this angle RQS is 4 times as large as PQR. Find the measure of all possible angles. So we know this, that the measure of angle PQR plus measure of angle RQS equals measure of angle PQS. There's your thing equation. Now, we circle plug chug. PQR is X. This is 4X. This is 90. Solve. Find everything possible. We have 18 and 72. They add up to 90. You know you're done. This page you're going to do on your own. Pause the video. Then check your work. Pause. Okay, welcome back. The key word here was the fact that they're a linear pair, which means share spine, make a line. If you look very, very carefully, these two letters, K and L and K, are shared, which means K must be the vertex. So you can draw the other two angles. JKL was 5x. LKM was 14x plus 10. And find everything possible. Well, by definition, a linear pair is also supplementary. So your thing equation, in this case, blue plus green equals red. And x should have equaled 10. Hopefully you didn't stop there. Hopefully you went back and 5 times 10 is 50. Then you check 140. 14 times 10 is 140 minus 10. That makes that 130. 150 and 130 add up to 180. Check.